I want to begin today with two disclaimers. First, the three sources discussed here are from the American History and Life with Full Text database. However, information for two of these directed the researcher to JSTOR for full text versions. Second, I used these sources previously in my thesis and am using them here again because my search did not return any new sources. With that said, it's always a good idea to revisit old sources. My dissertation topic, Bob Jones University and its collection of religious art, is based on my thesis. And during research for my thesis, I discovered that there had been very few books written about the history of the university or that of the Jones family. I then decided to look for book reviews of those that had been written. One review by historian William R. Glass appeared in the fall 1997 issue of the Florida Historical Quarterly. In this article, Glass discusses Mark Dahlhaus's An Island in the Lake of Fire, Bob Jones University, Fundamentalism, and the Separatist Movement, and Barry Hankins' God's Rascal, J. Frank Norris, and the Beginnings of Southern Fundamentalism. Glass argues that these books make significant contributions to the study of Southern religion and American Protestant fundamentalism, and concludes that both represent notable pieces of the story of fundamentalism in the South. In An Island in the Lake of Fire, Dahlhaus uses Bob Jones University as a case study of developments in the fundamentalist movement, specifically the split that occurred in the 1940s and 50s over membership in and cooperation with theological liberal denominations. In Glass's opinion, Dahlhaus excelled in describing the university's curriculum, student life, and ties to the national movement, but failed to place the school into its regional context. Tiffany L. Johnston's article, American Dionysus, Carl W. Hamilton, 1886 to 1967, collector of Italian Renaissance art, appeared in the Journal of the History of Collections in 2019. Johnston uses a chronological approach to tell the story of the man who rose from impoverished circumstances to become, among other things, the person who suggested to Bob Jones Jr. the idea of an art museum on the campus of Bob Jones University. Hamilton, the son of a devoutly religious Methodist mother, worked his way through Yale, paying his expenses and graduating in 1913 with a nice profit. Thereafter, shrewd investments enabled him to begin collecting art. Undoubtedly, he had familiarized himself with the Jarvis collection at Yale, the first American collection of Italian Renaissance painting. Hamilton had been a lay preacher in his hometown in Pennsylvania and years later met Bob Jones Jr. during an evangelical campaign. Johnston concludes that although Hamilton lost his own collection, he continued to acquire and assemble art using other people's money, and that this compulsion to collect benefited Bob Jones University. This is it, isn't it, Brother Stone? The move of Bob Jones University from Cleveland, Tennessee to Greenville, 1946 to 1947, by John Matsko, former professor and archivist of Bob Jones University, appeared in the July 2007 issue of the South Carolina Historical Magazine, marking the 60th anniversary of the move. Matsko briefly touches on the early life of Bob Jones Sr., the establishment of Bob Jones College in Florida, and its subsequent move to Tennessee, before discussing the reasons for the decision to relocate. Brother Stone is Greenville, South Carolina businessman E. Roy Stone, who suggested the new location at the insistence of his daughter, a student at Bob Jones College. Matsko notes that the Joneses struck observers as businessmen as much as fundamentalist preachers, and that the university's students came from 40 states and several foreign countries. His article relies heavily on Daniel Turner's Standing Without Apology and R.K. Johnson's Builder of Bridges, along with material from the university's archives. In conclusion, Matsko notes Bob Jones University's economic and cultural impacts, among the latter the old master paintings of the new Bob Jones Art Museum.